Hello friends, welcome to Daily Sourdough. Today we are making sourdough bagels. Yeah, this is going to be fun. Sourdough bagels are the bomb. So start with about 3/4 cup starter, and you want your starter to be recently fed and very lively. So as you can see, my starter is very active. So add 3/4 cup to your bowl. Then add 1 cup of slightly warm water. And as usual, stir this until it's dissolved a bit. Then it's easier to incorporate all your other ingredients. And it gives your starter a little head start on dissolving and getting really active. Add 2 tablespoons of honey. You can also use maple syrup if you'd rather, but I'm going to use some local honey here. It's very nice raw honey, so it's full of beneficial enzymes that will enhance my dough even more. And since my water's warm, my honey will dissolve in this water and starter mixture. Just give it a little stir, maybe even wait 10 minutes while it all dissolves. Now add 2 teaspoons of salt, and be sure and use a good sea salt as they don't have additives and you have more beneficial nutrients in your sea salt. And add to that 2 cups, I have 4 cups of flour in my bowl, and this is just all-purpose flour. I've never tried using bread flour, but I imagine that would work great as well. So first add 2 cups of your flour, so just add half of it. And I saw one of the questions asked is, what is my favorite kind of flour? And I do really like King Arthur flour for a few reasons. First, I think their flour yields great results. And second, I think they're such a reputable company. Once your 2 cups are incorporated, now add another cup of flour, and using my hands, it's always best to use your hands if you can, knead that extra cup of flour in. And of course you can use a stand mixer to mix this up. It's always faster. However, I really like doing things kind of the slow, old-fashioned way. It makes me feel good and connected to my dough. I can feel what my dough needs when I do it by hand, and I think it just adds a whole nother level of meaning to the dough itself, to what you're making. It adds a lot of love to your cooking, and people feel that, and I like that aspect of it. So that's why I like to use my hands. Plus, the warmth of my hand helps to activate the bacteria and the yeast, which is always beneficial. And as you can see, my dough is getting quite stiff now, so I'm going to take it out, put it on the counter here, and I'm going to knead it a little bit. And so far I've only added about 3¼ cups of flour. I think I want to add the rest of the flour, so I might wet the countertop and see if I can get it to take in that extra flour, because I'm hoping to get 8 bagels out of this. I'm going to wet my hand a little bit as well and knead my dough a bit, and then I'm going to add the rest of my flour. So I have a total of 4 cups of flour. I'm just going to work it and keep wetting my hand until all of that flour is incorporated. I've been kneading my dough about 5 minutes, and I just continued to wet my hand and knead the flour in, and now I have a very nice smooth dough. It is stiff and it will need to rise on your counter in a warm spot for about 8 to 12 hours. I have washed my bowl out and then I left it slightly damp. I'm going to put my dough back in there, cover it with plastic. You can also cover it with beeswax. I know that's a really nice natural way to cover your bread. Let this rest on your counter for 8 to 12 hours. You want it to rise, double in size, and get really puffy and soft. My bagel dough has been fermenting all day long, and look at this. It looks so happy. Now it's time to shape the dough. So take your dough out of your bowl, and a bench scraper is really handy for that, especially the kind that's malleable. It bends with the bowl. So shape your dough into a log so that you can cut it evenly into 8 pieces. Feels very nice. Now take each piece and roll it into a ball, just kind of like you would do when you're shaping rolls. You want a really pretty surface, so just put your hand under the dough and rotate the dough towards you, and that tightens the surface of your dough. Put it on a parchment-lined baking sheet. We'll shape all 8 into a ball, and then we will shape it into a bagel. After shaping your bagel into 8 balls, take your hand and press them down so that they're flattened. Now take each one and poke a hole in it with your finger, your index finger and your thumb. And just right in the center, squeeze it until you poke a hole right through. And then you can take your finger and your thumb and roll it around like kind of like a steering wheel to enlarge that hole. And the reason you want a hole in your bagel, not only is it typical, but this helps the bagel to cook thoroughly and it gives it a head start in the boiling water, but this allows the bagel to cook all the way through. So just roll it around. This is kind of fun. And you want the hole fairly large because when it rises during the second rise, it's going to tend to close up again. So make it bigger than you think you need. Because you'll end up with a very small hole in the end. You can tell it's already starting to close. To cover it, take a very lightweight dish towel and get it thoroughly wet. Squeeze it though, so it's not going to get your dough wet. It'll just keep it moist. Then lay it over the top of your bagels Put them in a warm place to rise. It will take 1 to 4 hours to rise depending on the heat in your home. I'm actually going to put these outside to rise so that they'll be done in an hour and I can bake them and have these delicious sourdough bagels soon. Well, I did kind of a dumb thing where I let my bagels sit to rise and I had this towel laying over the top of it. I thought everything was going to be fine and I went to visit a friend. Of course, I stayed longer than I expected and the towel dried out and stuck to the bagels. So when I came back, I was sad because my bagels are not as pretty as they should be, but they'll still work out. You can see how the towel stuck to the bagels in all these different places. So darn it. However, the next step is to boil the bagels in 3 quarts of water. But before we boil them, put out your toppings. So I have all these different toppings ready to go. I have an artisan bread topping, I have a mixture of flax seeds, and then cheese. Because after we boil them, when they're still wet, we'll dip them in our topping and then bake them. So get your toppings ready first, then boil your water, and we'll move over to the stove now. Once your pot of water is boiling rapidly, add 1 tablespoon of brown sugar and 1 tablespoon of baking soda. And that brown sugar will help to enhance the color of the bagels, and boiling them in the baking soda water will give them that classic texture of a bagel. And taking a slotted spoon, dunk each bagel in your water and boil on each side for roughly 30 seconds. So 30 seconds on each side. Just do 2 or 3 at a time. You don't want to crowd your pot, and that will keep the water boiling rapidly as well. So after 30 seconds, flip your bagel over so that it boils on the other side. While they're boiling, have everything lined up. So I have my toppings and then a parchment lined baking sheet. My oven is heating up so that we can, in rapid succession, boil them, dip them in the topping, and put them on the baking tray ready to bake in the oven. Shake off the excess water and then quickly dip them in your topping, and just dip them on one side and place them on the parchment. Put them in the oven at 425 degrees for 20 to 25 minutes. So just kind of keep an eye on them. Here we have it, friends, sourdough bagels. The holes closed up more than I would have liked, but if they hadn't proved quite so long, then that hole would have remained open just slightly. But we can work on that. We know what we did wrong. I can fix that. But I think we should cut into one and see how it tastes. Beautiful, they're soft on the inside, chewy on the outside, just like they're supposed to be. So good. Really chewy on the outside, really nice texture. That is a great bagel. This is a great recipe. It always turns out great. It's fun because you can customize your bagels according to people's tastes. You will love this recipe. Give it a try. I know you will be successful at it. And be sure to stay tuned because I have more recipes coming up to share with you on Daily Sourdough.